A married man was in love with another woman. Joseph was a man deeply in love with Teresa. Although he was already married, a woman who did not return his feelings, he planned to win her heart and marry her. He went to see Teresa's father to ask him to persuade her daughter. Teresa's father was a traditional man who believed in certain customs and had specific requirements. When Joseph arrived, he made his request and asked for Teresa's hand in marriage. Her father responded that, according to tradition, Joseph needed to provide a bride price, a sum of money, as well as make other important arrangements to which was his traditional beliefs. Joseph left the man's house, feeling anxious but determined. He went home, and after much effort, he returned with only a crate of beer. Without any bride price as expected, the lady's father saw the beer. He was shocked and questioned Joseph's why he didn't bring the bride price they talked about. Joseph, who was well known and feared man in the village, did not take kindly to being questioned. He responded with anger, saying that the beer was all he could manage for now, and warned Teresa's not to question him further. This made the man afraid and in fear of harm from Joseph. Joseph beats his wife every day. Joseph was a man who always lost his temper. He would beat his wife daily because she hadn't been able to give him a child. Whenever Joseph's wife asked him for money for necessities or medical help, he would respond with violence rather than support. One morning, as Joseph was violently beating his wife, a woman named Clara, who works in a local pharmacy in their village, intervened. Shocked by the scene, Clara confronted Joseph and told him he was shameless for treating his wife so badly. Joseph, however, was more focused on Clara's backside more than on her words, showing his lack of concern for the situation. Clara noticed this and warned Joseph of him acting unserious with his life, telling him that he doesn't deserve to marry any woman because of his attitude. Clara realized that Joseph was not going to change his behavior. Determined to help Joseph's wife, Clara took Joseph's wife away from the scene and brought her to her local pharmacy. There, Clara advised Joseph's wife to seriously consider leaving Joseph if the abuse continued. She told her that she deserved a better life and should not have to endure such suffering. Clara's intervention gave Joseph's wife a glimmer of hope. This man is a troublemaker in his village. He was feared by everyone, especially the village women. Joseph had a group of boys that helps him carry out his bad mission. Together, they did terrible things that made life miserable for the villagers. A small village known for its peaceful state, most of their daily activities were to recruit people's children, who are supposed to be in school, to beg on the streets. The children were forced to hand over all the money they collected to Joseph. Joseph and his boys also destroyed people's property if they don't pay him the money he demanded from them as tax. Joseph's actions made him the most feared person in the village, which made no one stand on his way whenever he does his bad deeds, because those who tried to stand against him didn't survive it. Despite his power and fearsome reputation, Joseph's actions had consequences. Many people who suffered because of him laid curses on him. They wanted him to feel the same misery he left them to feel on a daily basis. They hoped that these curses would somehow come back to affect him. Years later, those curses started to take effect. Joseph began to face a series of unfortunate events. His wife was not able to become pregnant for him. His once powerful group of boys started to fall apart, and people who once feared him began to stand up against him. His second wife can't get pregnant, and she left. Joseph married his second wife after his first wasn't able to bear a child for him. At first, 3 of them were happily living together, but as time passed, it became clear that his new wife also couldn't get pregnant. Since his second wife was a nurse, she checked her own health and found no issues. She told Joseph about it, but Joseph, knowing that the problem might be from him, trying to fix things, Joseph suggested they try some herbal medicine, which includes leaves and other herbs, thinking it might help. But his wife, with her medical background, told him that he can't do that, said that should try other alternatives. So, they went to a local witch doctor to find out what was wrong. The witch doctor performed the ritual and revealed that Joseph was cursed. In a past life, Joseph had taken someone's property by force, and that person had placed a curse on him. This curse means he would never be able to have children. The news was shocking and painful. Joseph's wife realized that their struggle to have a child wasn't her fault, but the result of Joseph's past actions, which he has been hidden from her since they married. Heartbroken, she told Joseph that marriage is for is to bear children, not to stay alone. She decided to leave. She packed her things and left. Despite Joseph's desperate attempts to make her stay, she walked away. Joseph watched her leave, deeply regretful for the past that had come back to affect their lives. After he can't impregnate his wife, and his wife left, Joseph was heartbroken. The worst part is that she had fallen in love with another man, who is more wealthy than Joseph, and this made Joseph so much jealous. Joseph being disappointed and jealous, he began to plot to get her back with his gang members, and they brought out an ideal of hijacking her. One evening, as his ex-wife was heading home from work, Joseph's boys attacked her. She was confused about what was happening. They used a drugged handkerchief to make her lose consciousness. They also grabbed the woman who was working with her and brought both of them to Joseph's hideout. They tied them up to avoid escaping. Joseph was furious and felt betrayed. To make matters worse, he also hijacked his ex-wife's father. Now he had 3 hostages: his ex-wife, her friend, and her father. Joseph gave his ex-wife a terrible choice. Joseph told her that she had to decide whether to return to him as his wife or watch him take her father's life. His ex-wife was terrified and didn't know what to say. The tension was thick and her fear was huge, but just as things were about to get worse, they were lucky. Joseph's gang brought him urgent news about a new business opportunity. This unexpected development, Joseph had to leave quickly to handle the business. Joseph and his gang left the hostages behind, tied up in their cell. The business deal was urgent, that's why Joseph left them there, but he warned them not to leave. Joseph was arrested for all his problems in the village. Joseph was a notorious troublemaker in his village. He and his group of boys went around causing problems, often using force to take people's property. They would also demand money from villagers and make children beg on the streets to collect money for them. Despite numerous warnings from the villagers, Joseph continued his oppressive behavior. Without any regard for the community, the situation began to shift when Charles, a new man in the village, arrived. Charles fell in love with Joseph's wife, which made her leave Joseph for him. Whenever Charles encountered Joseph in the streets or anywhere, they would usually argue, because they have some fear for each other, with Charles trying to stop Joseph's disruptive actions. He knew that simply arguing with Joseph wouldn't solve the problem, so he took decisive action. Charles contacted the police and devised a plan to arrest Joseph. He called Joseph and his boys, telling them that it was a new business opportunity. Joseph, eager for any chance to make money, immediately left with his boys. When Joseph and his boys showed up at the location, they were shocked to find themselves surrounded by police officers. The police arrested them on the spot, catching them completely off guard. The village was filled with joy and happiness. When they heard about Joseph's arrest, the community celebrated, happy that the source of their problems was finally gone. With Joseph out of the way, peace and harmony were restored. Follow for more movie recaps.